Hey, what's up? What is the VC here coming at you with another video here about anything and everything. Nothing's off the table, and as always, I'm off the cuff. I just tell it like it is. And you can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Rumble. All right, whatever's more convenient for you in regards to access. I'm all for it. And if there's any other places of suggestion, let me know, and I'll go about seeking other avenues as well. So without further ado, let's just get to it here, right? I mean, right when I'm trying to get away from Zelenskyy, Zelenskyy keeps coming back to me, all right? So I want to talk about Zelenskyy, and then I also want to talk about a couple other matters as well, since we're, you know, on this talk tip that I'm on here, and just telling things like it is and things that I see. So, these last few days since Friday when Zelenskyy was at the White House and things got heated, argued, left. He got booted. Then he left, flew overseas to the UK, and then yesterday talked about how UK all of a sudden decides they want to help now, right? They're part of NATO and all that, and it's funny how UK decides they want to help when US is threatening to not do anything anymore because enough is enough, right? So all this banter and all this theater that happened, and Zelensky left with no deal, all right, in place, and he keeps on asking for security protection, extra security, extra security, extra security, and all this other stuff, right? And the thing is, though, without us, Ukraine would have been steamrolled by now. They would have been overtaken a couple years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's funny how much of our money, weapons, and all that can simply make a difference to hold back Russia. You know what I'm saying? But it's at the expense of lives, Ukrainian lives, and Russian lives too. Right? Of a nonsense war. All right, that if Zelensky was serious about coming to a deal, he would have came and made a deal, right? Rather than, it seems like he's scared. It seems like he's just holding off, almost like looking for other suitors as willing to pay and supply security, and just looking for others to simply just come in and do that sort of dirty business, because U.S. has had enough of it, right? They had enough of the free money being spent. They're trying to recoup some of that, but it's funny how Zelensky is like holding back, And I've been saying this whole time. I think he's scared because he's a loser, right? And that's the thing about it. He's a loser, and a true leader like him would want peace, would want to come to the table, because if you're able to come to a table and have someone like the U.S. be like the mediator between two countries that are at odds with each other, Russia and Ukraine, and U.S. is the mediary. I mean, to come to something that could be satisfying for all parties, I don't see what's the problem with that. I think Zelensky is afraid to lose out on everything. He's afraid to lose out on losing his presidency. He's afraid to lose to Putin, and he's afraid of losing us, the U.S. Right? He's afraid of everything. He's afraid of his own shadow. He's a loser, and that's what it is. So when you look at all that, what's Zelensky doing? He's stalling, right? And when he went to the UK, what did the UK do? They finally stepped it up, right? After all these years, finally stepped in and said, "Oh, we're gonna donate. We're not donate. We're gonna loan $2.7 billion to Ukraine to beef up their stuff, and we're willing to send boots to the ground." Right? That's what UK said, but we need US to be a part of that too. And it's like, hell no, US doesn't want any part of that, right? Because one thing about this whole NATO thing too, I learned is that if there was to be conflict, now that there's going to be UK boots on the ground, I guess they're saying like Article 5, whatever, of the NATO resolution that's in there says that now if you affect, if you attack one, you're attacking all. So it kind of forces U.S. boots to the ground for intervention now. And that's something that Trump is trying to completely avoid in the first place. He's trying to avoid this sort of conflict from even remotely happening. That's why he's trying to broker a peace deal. And so what's so wrong with that, right? And now, with all that, Trump is pulling everything back as he is now pulling the deal off the table in the form of he's no longer going to support Ukraine. All because of Zelensky's rude and unapologetic attitude towards Trump and Vance, at this meeting. And I think saying he's thankful after the fact is because a lot of people got to his head and said, "Hey, man, I think you should, be thankful. Just tell everybody that you're thankful." Because he's been saying it a lot more now after the fact, but he's not apologizing for his attitude towards Trump at that meeting, because it's almost like you're biting the hand that's feeding you, right? And that's what he's doing. He's biting the hand that's feeding him, the U.S. But yet you're not thankful for that, all that money and weapons that came in. You're not thankful for just simply having U.S. ties, right? And so he came in almost very demanding for extra, extra security. I kept on saying that. And it's like, where do you come in to make that demand? So that was the problem that they had at odds. They were at odds with, and so yeah, it's crazy. And all this Trump is asking is just an apology for the rudeness, and apology, and let's just kind of come to a deal for this sort of like ceasefire, and let's make some peace here, because we don't want any boots on the ground. That's fine if UK wants to put boots on the ground just to serve as extra layer of protection, whatever. That's on them. That's on Europe. We got our own problems to worry about and think about and be about, right? And so if Europe wants to step it up, finally, then step it up. All right, so that's the underlying issue we got going on right now. Let me see, because I saw something here. Let's see what we got going on here. There we go. President Trump pauses aid to Ukraine. Yeah, so that's something that caught my attention. So let's take a look at that.
With PatriotSoftware.com, accounting and
we continue to follow breaking news. Within the last hour, President Trump has paused all U.S. military.
Well, let me just jump over to here.
Donald Trump has spectacularly paused all military aid to Ukraine after that huge clash with President Zelenskyy in the Oval Office last week.
Reporting the United States is pausing all U.S. military aid to Ukraine until President Trump determines the Ukrainians show a commitment of good faith peace negotiations. That's according to a senior Trump administration telling Fox. This is not a permanent termination of aid. It is a pause. The orders are going out right now. The official said this in response to Ukrainian President Zelensky's conduct over the last week and his words over the weekend. So it's all stopping, Brian.
Yeah, well, he needs an apology. President Trump says, I need a direct apology. This can be fixed with a phone call. Sorry if things went off the rails. Liked the first 45 minutes of our talk. Didn't like the last 10. So let's get this thing back on track. I understand what you mean, and let's do it. And then you put the ball in Russia's court, and let's see how sincere they are. But it's going to take a call from Zelenskyy to Trump directly, and I'm sure he'd take the call. The guy does not hold grudges.
This unprecedented action comes after Zelenskyy showed immense disrespect to the president, the vice president, and the U.S. people. Trump is not playing games. He wants an apology and a resolution to the conflict once and for all, and he'll use every mechanism in his power to bring this to fruition.
Everybody has to get into a room, so to speak, and we have to make a deal. And the deal can be made very fast. It should not be that hard a deal to make. It can be made very fast. Now, maybe somebody doesn't want to make a deal. And if somebody doesn't want to make a deal, I think that person won't be around very long. That person will not be listened to very long because I believe that Russia wants to make a deal. I believe certainly the people of Ukraine want to make a deal. They've suffered more than anybody else.
Online commentators...
Very fascinating truth there, right? About what he was just saying, that it's Zelensky's holding out, right? He's afraid to lose power. He's afraid to lose it all. And I don't know if they're going to mention it here, but questions are starting to arise now if he should resign and someone else step it up to speak for Ukraine and come to peace terms of this resolution with Russia and all that stuff. And his response was, well, if he was to resign, one of those stipulations would be that Ukraine gets to be a part of NATO, which is it's a no-go from the U.S. in terms of, well, Russia doesn't want that, and U.S. doesn't want that, because all it's going to do is create more tension and heat, and that's not the whole idea or direction that anybody really wants in general. And Ukraine is only pushing for that just to step on Russia's toes and just create this tension that's always going to be there, because that's the whole idea with Russia in the first place historically, is that NATO wasn't supposed to expand into where they're at now. They feel like they're being threatened by NATO, and that's the reason why they started invading these territories of former Soviet Union, like Crimea and Georgia or something like that. And so, and Ukraine is another one of those former Soviet states, right? And so they're trying to kind of go into territory to kind of border themselves off in a way from NATO expansion, right? So that's the whole historical factor pointing into that with Russia. But all this can come to an end just by coming to the bargaining table here. And he will not call Trump, all right? He's not going to call Trump because he's a dumbass. And it's this whole thing is stupid. He's trying to just get more money, more weapons, and to continue to keep conflict going, We don't know what the end game is for this guy. We don't know what he really wants. Because he keeps saying he wants security, he wants more aid, he wants more whatever. And without any of us, they're so defenseless. Like I said, Russia would just steamroll them in a but in a day. You know what I'm saying? That's how weak they are without anybody. And so, but at the same time, we all want peace. But yet, what does he want? Because it doesn't sound like he wants peace. He sounds like he wants to keep this thing going. Because if you look at what has been going on, all right, they haven't had any elections for Ukraine president. Because if they did, he's pretty unpopular right now. That he's afraid of being replaced, and they use the excuse of war for not holding elections, and he's doing all these sort of things that it's funny how that is like what Trump described as a dictator would do, right? So very fascinating stuff. Let's see what else the news is got to say here.
Went into meltdown about the news, with this person saying, "Good, no more money to Ukraine. Zelenskyy never intended on peace last Friday.
Yep.
He brought his Biden playbook to the Oval Office and thought he was going to score another payday."
Yep.
This commentator doubled down, saying he thinks his seat at the table is way bigger than it actually is. What an embarrassment for Ukraine. The power move by Trump comes after Zelenskyy's shocking comments, saying the US will have to send their military to fight this war against Russia.
The U.S. will have to send their sons and daughters exactly the same way as we are sending their sons and daughters to
Fuck
war.
that.
And they will have to fight because it's NATO that we're talking about, and they will be dying.
And whilst
Fuck
America is
that.
causing military aid to Ukraine, European countries are only strengthening their support for the war, with the UK's Prime Minister Keir Starmer offering money and boots on the ground.
The UK is prepared to
Fuck
back
that,
this with boots on the ground and planes in the air. Together with others, Europe must do the heavy lifting. But to support peace in our continent and to succeed, this effort must have strong US backing.
Fuck that. But it can be settled in peace with no conflict. And it's funny how we're trying to instill that, but yet they're pressuring for war as it appears. And you heard it from Zelenskyy. He's all about further conflict and no peace. So that's a problem there. And like I said, this is all on Zelenskyy. And enough is enough, you know. Maybe he does need to step down because this is completely wrong. And Trump's doing the right thing by sending a message, all right? That we're not going to deal with this bullshit. And so, there it is, right? We are not seeing our sons and daughters fight. No way. We're not. Fuck that. All right? No more money to Ukraine. Yeah, Trump should just get us out of NATO. He's pulled us out of the Paris Climate Accords. He pulled us out of all these different things. Pull out of NATO. Fuck NATO. NATO's garbage anyways. We fund NATO. We fund a majority of what it costs to continue NATO and what they do. So maybe we should just pull out of NATO and see it just all crumble apart, because without NATO, I mean, what is there to be anyways? Because NATO is just nothing, right? Without us. So yeah, enough is enough. We've had enough of this shit. All right, so that's what I wanted to speak on here. That Zelenskyy does not want peace, and as you can see and heard there, he still wants further conflict. I don't think he's going to call Trump either to apologize. I think the ego is a little bit too big there. And so that's what's going on with that. Just saying. And oh, look at this. Zelensky met with top Dems before fiery clash with Trump. So, as you can see there, they probably said something to him since he kind of, in a sense, campaigned with the Democrats during election season, right? He was going around with the Harris campaign and all that. And, you know, because I don't know if it's because it was just the current Democratic presidency and he was just kind of going along with it, or he thought that they were, I don't know, who knows what he was thinking when he was running with them. So yeah, fascinating stuff. A couple other things here. So this is fascinating right here. Liberal mayor under fire after shocking condolences to attacker's family. Yeah, this is a little bit crazy. All right, so let's take a look at this here. Why did this happen? Because
7 million.
Well, when you look at it,
U.S. businesses.
Massachusetts is woke, and they are a sanctuary city, Boston, and in Massachusetts, and a mayor like Wu. Let's listen to what they got to say. Sorry, before we do that, and I'm trying to lay out the groundwork. So they're a sanctuary city. They don't give a shit about us Americans. They care about illegals more, and she runs along the lines and script of the progressive far left agenda. All right, trash, just like Mayor Karen Bass, just like London Breed of San Francisco, former mayor. Just like the mayor, just like the governors of Connecticut, Maine, Chicago, Illinois, California, governors, all the different sanctuary city mayors like Brandon Johnson, I mean, you name them, all right? All garbage, all far left progressive bullshit. And I can't wait till those mayors go to Capitol Hill to testify to defend their sanctuary city status and their resistance to that, of stepping up and helping ICE. But it doesn't make sense for what she did, as news came out about this whole, I guess there was a shooter that came in and tried to, well, let's listen to this.
Voting rights. Then in December of 20,
let me pull this back here.
Last year because she suggested giving illegals, even as young as 11 years old, voting rights. Then in December of 2023, she hosted a secret elected of color holiday party, and white officials were not allowed to attend. And she said her city will not cooperate with Donald Trump's mass deportation effort, despite ICE rounding up 4 alleged child rapists and also a suspected member of the MS-13 gang.
Yeah, well, there was this guy that was in a Chick-fil-A, because this could add to a resume, was at a Chick-fil-A, and he was in an active, he was caught trying to stab 2 people. Mayor Wu, then he ended up getting killed by an off-duty cop. Mayor Wu expressed condolences to the attacker. Listen to her.
My condolences and all of our thoughts are with the family of the individual whose life has been lost. And I'm also thinking of all the people who were impacted here today in one of the busier parts of the city with this tragedy.
I dare her. She's flanked behind her. You see all these cops. Right. And this person tried to take on cops. And she offers condolences to the person that was trying. I don't care about the person that tried to stab the cop. If he died as a result of it, offer him Christ, and, he's going to have his judgment.
Yeah, even the cop had to go to the hospital because he tried to attack the cop, too, that tried to save the 2 that were being attacked by that particular person. that was wielding a knife.
Judgment Day. But, I mean, it's just not common sense to do that.
Well, here's what makes no sense. So you're looking at Back Bay, the really nice neighborhood in downtown Boston, and this couple was being chased down the street by a man with a knife, threatening to kill him. They ran into the Chick-fil-A to seek shelter, and there was an off-duty cop in there, and the off-duty cop pulls out a gun and tells the guy to put the knife down, and he didn't do it, and he shot the person who was trying to kill the people. And so that is the family that the mayor is apologizing to and sending condolences to. The family of the guy with the knife who tried to kill, it sounds like at least 2 people, maybe 3, maybe 10.
Just so liberal.
It's upside down.
Suffolk County, Massachusetts District Attorney Kevin Hayden, his office is leading the post-shooting investigation. He offered thoughts and prayers to the unidentified assailant's family and friends, too. What is going on?
And finally, before we leave,
they lose.
When those mayors go in front of the panel, Steve, those Ivy League presidents got consulted by attorneys.
Yeah.
And they were scripted by their attorneys. So these mayors should watch it.
Can't help
they
you.
look like they're trying to, avoid a lawsuit like these were, or arrogantly say, this is what the people want.
Right.
Well, it's people outside your little bubble, I'm pretty sure have moved past.
Well, Brian, I think what they're going to do is they're going to say, our city charter says we have to do this. And so the lawyers tell me that's all I can do. Eric?
Look at this. Every time, it's funny because federal laws and federal stuff will always supersede state, no matter what. All right, I don't get why they keep referring to, we're going by our, guidelines set established by the city and all that, or state, right? But federal will supersede that always. Doesn't matter what it is.
Eric Adams, he's going to sit down and he's going to say, look, he's going to be able to say, hey, I'm cooperating with the Trump administration because I signed that executive order that allowed ICE to return to Rikers Island. But the others, they're going to be right down to the letter of the law as their protection.
So the follow-up question is then, if they say the city charter, are you going to change it? Like, you can't just
And then they're going to say, well, I need the whole council.
Oh, yeah. Okay, but we have your support of changing the charter so we can arrest criminal migrants, right?
Brian was saying, don't let them in the country. If they're here illegally, get them out. And Mayor Adams said, if they're here in our city, he said, because we're a sanctuary city, if they're paying taxes, even if they're illegal, they should have the right to hospitals and the police and all of our services.
Taxes.
But he said, if they're criminals, I support ICE going in.
That's where he draws the line.
The problem is they will back up their statements. Everything we think is outrageous.
Why would illegals pay taxes? Like, think about that. They're like, illegals are not going to be like, hey, let's pay taxes so that way we won't get arrested or we won't get deported or we won't, nothing will affect us because we're paying taxes. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. All right? I know that Eric Adams is being politically correct, but I just can't see illegals going out of the way to so-called, quote-unquote, pay their taxes, and so they should be, given the rights of a regular citizen because they're paying taxes. Get out of here with that shit.
Yeah, no, they want to be got.
They'll have answers.
But their answers are, I am for illegal immigrants here. I am for giving the Heisman to ICE.
Yeah.
And that's where it's all going to... The facts will indict them.
The Heisman to ICE or the Iceman to ICE?
Let them keep doing it. They'll lose elections. I mean, it's just common sense.
But not in these cities. Republicans don't run anybody.
So
that's a good point,
it's going to be fireworks on Capitol Hill on Wednesday. You'll see it.
Running.
You'll see it
here on
Fox. Republican.
So meanwhile, you got an off-duty police officer coming to the rescue, stopping a knife attack inside of a busy Chick-fil-A. Happened in Boston. The suspect shot dead after ignoring repeated commands to drop the weapon. But instead of thanking...
Think about that. If it wasn't for an off-duty cop being there, those two people, the couple that was being chased by the knifer, probably would have killed them.
The officer, the Democratic mayor offered condolences to the families of the dead suspect. Some folks got a problem with that. Molly Line follows that story in Boston. What happened, Molly?
Only woke progressives would do stupid shit like
Good
that.
morning, Bill. The mayor of Boston, a Democrat, is getting smashed on social media for her reaction in this case after expressing her condolences to the man who, according to investigators, had been attempting to stab several people inside of this Chick-fil-A in Boston, prompting an off-duty police officer to shoot the knife-wielding suspect, ultimately leading to the accused attacker's death. Here is Boston Mayor Michelle Wu Saturday night near the scene.
My condolences and all of our thoughts are with the family of the individual whose life has been lost. And I'm also thinking of all the people who were impacted here today in one of the busier parts of the city with this tragedy. I'm glad
Better
that
off
the officer
dead.
is safe, and very grateful for a quick response from all of our first responders here.
It's weird,
The
though.
local DA and the Boston Police Commissioner also offered their condolences. Commissioner Michael Cox described how it all started Saturday afternoon with two people running into the Chick-fil-A being chased by a man with a knife attempting to stab them. The off-duty officer identified himself as a police officer, telling the attacker to drop the weapon. The man did not comply. The officer fired his gun to stop the threat. The suspect was hit. He later died.
Better off
We're
dead.
proud of police officers who activate themselves, whether it's on duty or off duty, to try to save lives. But we're asking for the public support and help. If anyone was here, it's a pretty busy area, to contact us.
Among those slamming Mayor Wu, South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace, writing on X, condolences from the mayor of Boston, wait for it, to a knife-wielding man trying to kill people. Thankfully, this guy was stopped in his tracks by a brave law enforcement officer. Notably, Mace sits on the House Oversight Committee. That is the committee that Boston Mayor Michelle Wu is slated to testify before later on this week. She's expected to defend the status of Boston as a sanctuary city, and Wu often touts Boston as the safest major city in the country. Bill?
Okay, full follow it. Molly, thanks. Molly Line in Boston on
Fuck
that.
that
Thank
shit.
you, Dana.
Carly Shimkus and Jimmy Fela join us here. And
Morning, guys.
she's going to be on the Hill this week talking about immigration.
yeah.
I mean, she's the gift that keeps on giving when it comes to talking points, but the poor city of Boston.
Yeah, it's going to be a fiery hearing with the Oversight Committee later this week, so certainly something to watch out for. This is a classic progressive ideology on full display, where the criminal is the victim and the actual victim is an afterthought. And I think you can make a connection between that line of thinking and why Donald Trump is in office. And for a mayor, no matter what you think, this is a very easy situation to respond.
It's just like the California script, right, with the Democrats here, is that, oh, yeah, all these people locked up are innocent, and that's why we want to release prisoners early, close up prisons, right? And then what do? They continue to do crime, they get locked up again, right? I mean, so just saying, you can't feel bad for the criminals because they're criminals for a reason, and more times than not, they don't belong back in the streets.
You say, my thoughts are with the victims who went through a terrifying ordeal. Any loss of life is a tragedy, but we're so grateful for the police for defending the innocent victims here. So you could say, you know, maybe was this a stumble on her behalf, or like I said, is this her ideology? Given past positions that she's taken, I'm pretty sure it's easy to say that it is the latter in this case.
Yeah, she's just a woke piece of shit
in these cities comparative to the rest of us. Like, if you look at her popularity within the city of Boston, it's not that bad. She's actually winning in her re-election bid against Josh Kraft right now. So they don't see the world through the lens we do. The rest of the country grew up playing two games in their backyard. They played cops and robbers, cowboys and Elizabeth Warrens. But when you were playing when you were playing cops and robbers, you knew the cops were the good guys, the robbers were the bad guys. This is a basic broken compass issue that only exists in blue cities. And to your point, the election showed us that, because outside of the cities themselves, Trump won the whole map.
Well, speaking of blue cities, we live in one, New York City, and I was just curious that COVID was a problem, but it's not the problem that we're facing right now. Still, former governor.
Yep. All right, so that's that. So I thought I wanted to point that out. You know, like, give condolences to the killer or attempted killer. That don't make any sense. Here's another fascinating thing before we go. Gavin Newsom, state of California, orders state employees to return to office on July 1st. Wow, that's kind of a sudden change of direction here from a a woke progressive Democrat. I wonder what's up with that shit. What's up with that shit, you know? Let's see what they got to say here.
From home, we have seen Bay Area cities return to the office, but now it'll happen at the state level. Governor Newsom is ordering state employees return to the office 4 days a week by July 1st. NBC Bay Area's Jocelyn Moran has the details.
Tonight, Governor Gavin Newsom issuing an executive order mandating state employees return to the office in person at least 4 days a week.
Wow. This is another domino to fall when it comes to bringing people back to the office.
President Trump called many federal workers back to the office. San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie is ordering all city employees to return to the office at least 4 days a week by the end of April. And now it's happening at the state level. California has more than 220,000 full-time state employees. The policy change is expected to apply to about 40% of the workforce who are currently required to report to an office at least 2 days per week. Catherine Koch is a state worker who chose to return to the office 5 days a week before tonight's announcement.
I haven't seen any benefit to my own personal productivity being in the office 5 days per week, and frankly, I have no idea where they're going to fit everyone. Our floor is completely full on Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
Under the order, state agencies and departments must develop plans to accommodate the increase of in-person work. Newsom says bringing workers back into the office will improve collaboration within the state departments.
I know one of the things they're going to say about us coming back, it's for collaboration purposes, but honestly, we do a lot of collaboration on Microsoft Teams, and that works great.
Since the pandemic, the work-from-home model is one many have adapted to and enjoyed.
That's what it is right there. The problem is they got too comfortable. They got too comfortable working from home and all that, and now that things are changing back to the classic formula, well, semi-classic, right? It's not 5 days a week at least. You know, it's just a matter of, well, you got to get back to basics here. I mean, 4 days a week is still not bad. You know, like the fifth day you work from home, maybe call that a 3 day weekend type of thing. You know what I'm saying? It's still a win to me, right? Like, to be able to do that. I know that some people prefer to work at home, but it's hard to be productive when you're working from home. I mean, I don't know. It just, to me, and how do you measure productivity, you know, when you're at home all the time, or when you got to check in once or twice a week? So with that, I mean, it's kind of a hard thing to do, but I think if you're working on a state or federal level, I do believe that there should be that hybrid sort of schedule in place, and not completely work from home or whatever. But you know, I still think, yeah, you should be reporting work. Not you don't have to do 5 days a week. I would still meet halfway and do this sort of hybrid schedule like what is being implemented here, and I agree with it. I like it. I wouldn't certainly mind it.
Bay Area tech reporter Scott Budman expects more pushback.
We have seen a whole bunch of people just get used to working from home, and to their credit, getting the job done from home. So to be told they have to go back to the office and get in their cars and commute and sit in traffic is something that people have not only gotten used to not doing, but they've really appreciated not doing.
But for businesses, it could offer a boost having employees working nearby.
We'll see. We have to see. I don't know. Things have changed, so to see what people will do.
Things have changed. And Jocelyn, you're joining me now to talk more about this. So are there any exceptions?
Yeah, there are. Important to note, this order does not apply to anyone hired under agreements to exclusively work from home, Gia.
Okay, so we know San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie, he's requiring city workers to come back to the office. What about other big Bay Area cities?
Yeah, we reached out to the mayor's office here in San Jose, and Mayor Mahan's office says city workers actually already do work in person 5 days a week, unless they submitted a request that had to be approved by a supervisor. Then at that point, you have the possibility of employees working about 1 to 2 days a week, Gia.
All right, Jocelyn, thanks.
Yeah, so I think it's fine. I think that I'm not for 5 days a week. I'll tell you that. I'm not for it. Hybrid, I'm for hybrid schedule. I talked about this before when Trump first started talking about everybody coming back to working in the office. I mentioned that during that episode in my content, that I'm willing to meet halfway and be like, hey, let's do a hybrid schedule and stagger the schedules. You know, like a Monday through Thursday or a Tuesday through Friday. And that way everybody still has a benefit of doing like a 3-day weekend and still commit time, you know. I don't see anything wrong with that, you know. I mean, I'm for hybrids. All right, so let's just say that. All right, so enough of all that stuff. Zelenskyy does not want peace. He will not apologize to Trump. Mayor Wu is a dumbass, and Gavin Newsom has ordered for the state to get back to at least 4 days a week, and in the office. That is, 4 days a week in the office, hybrid schedule. So let me know what you think. Comment down below, and subscribe, hit the bell icon, and all that good stuff for YouTube, Rumble, and all that and more on the daily. Thank you, and I'll see you next one.